Thank you, Mr. President. Look, while this doesn't seem like much of a game-changing bill, I do believe we need to do what we can to support the screen industry here in New South Wales, particularly when it pertains to regional New South Wales. Similar to the previous speaker, I'll talk mainly to the TV and film part of this bill. It's an area that I'm far more familiar with than the digital games. There are 2 points in particular I wanted to address, and in doing so, give you my 2 bobs worth to the Screen and Digital Games Industry Advisory Committee from the perspective of someone who absolutely loves his Australian screen content and also loves regional New South Wales. First and foremost, it's the fact that these films tell our stories. The films and TV shows tell our stories, and reading through the strategy, I did think there could have been more of a focus on the need to tell our stories, but I am aware that this is touched on in the bill, so happy to see that directly referenced as part of the legislation. And as someone from regional New South Wales, I feel that these stories that we see play a big part in bridging, creating a bridge over the geographic and knowledge gap between our rural and remote communities and those in more urbanised areas. Obviously, I'm not going to suggest that everything that you see on TV shows is factually correct. Mount Thomas, for instance, is a very busy town in terms of crime, even by today's standards. And of course, Wadden Valley saw medical issues that I hope most small communities don't have to deal with on a daily basis. And despite coming pretty close myself, I've never met a Russell Coight type character, but I would love to meet a Jay Swan from Mystery Road. And while some aspects of these stories might be exaggerated, obviously for dramatic purposes, they do tell an important story, and I have no doubt that many people in our capital cities have a lot of what they know or think they know about regional towns comes from these shows. They do demonstrate a lot of what regional life is like, and it's important we do get it right, so we must continue to support this industry. They tell the importance, for instance, of the local pub as the social hub in town. We've seen stories of the local footy club and the strength it can give a community. The importance of a local event in town, a race meet or a gala event, and we've seen the impact a loss can have on one of these small, tight-knit rural communities. And we've, of course, seen them pull together in times of need. Obviously all dramatised, but all based on real experiences, on real stories. So it's important that we provide this window into the lives of others that we're not that familiar with. And I use that example, the regional, to our metro cities, but it's had an impact on me. And while I don't remember the details of watching Marking Time, I think written by John Doyle some years ago, I do recall the impact that it had on me, seeing the lives of someone, seeing a window that I wasn't used to looking into. They also tell our history, and we look at stories like The Light Horseman, Anzacs, We, the Never Never, A Fortunate Life, all stories that played a big part in sating my thirst for more about history and all complemented the books on which they were based. And then we have our more drama history, The Man from Snowy River, Quigley in Australia, obviously more dramatised and fictional. Phar Lap, based on a true event that obviously gave a snapshot of that story as well. But these, while they are dramatised, they do give a snapshot of what life was like. Movies like Tracker, I also need to refer to, incredibly influential on our views on our history and incredibly important. More recently, I'd have to mention in our house, Ride Like a Girl is getting lots of attention in our house at the moment, that tells the Michelle Payne story. And Fires, the series on events revolving around recent fires, will go down as very important cultural, reflections on what we went through in some of those times. I also think that the TVs and movies are an important medium to tell these stories. Obviously, the way we're digesting our entertainment is changing as we shift to more online, short-term stuff, but not for 1 second do I believe that a clip on Instagram will come anywhere near the impact of seeing Claire's car slide down the side of that hill in McLeod's Daughters. It still gives me goosebumps as I recall it today. Or when Denny died in The Man from Snowy River 2, and sorry for any spoiler alerts, but if you haven't seen it by now, you're doing yourself a massive injustice. And while I can't fully recall the images around Molly's death on a country practice, I recall the impact that it had on our household and the emotion that created. So not for 1 second do I think that will ever be replaced by some clown dropping a basketball off a damn wall. And even it's not even the length, even the short-term things we see, the cricket episode of Bluey, that in itself, a 7-minute episode that was strong enough to be able to bring tears. We must continue to support these industries so they tell our stories. Another important aspect of it is the tourist attractions that they bring. You look at places like the Palace Hotel in Broken Hill that attracts visitors purely to go there where they filmed Priscilla. Out further still, you see Silverton, where they filmed a lot of Mad Max, and on the way out there you can stop in at Cobar to see where they filmed a lot of Running on Empty. So we must continue to support these. They continue to pay dividends long after the crews have left the town. There's so many shows I wanted to mention, Changi, The Battlers. The full impact of these stories on our culture today will long be felt. I've touched on the fact that it's great to see the objects of telling stories, telling our stories in this bill, so that's great to see. And we need to make sure that people can see themselves in our TV shows. And that's everyone. A lot of the stories I've told there are very cliches for what I might have watched. But I'll come back to marking time. Seeing these windows into other people's lives, to hear their stories, is one way that we can gain some empathy into lives that we might not otherwise be exposed to. So yes, we need to do anything we can to support our screen industry in New South Wales. They tell our stories. They tell the stories of regional New South Wales. They tell stories of all people, so people can see themselves on screen and we can see stories we might not otherwise see. I do understand there's some amendments coming in the other place that might strengthen some of the regional influence on this bill, which of course I fully support, and wish all those involved in our screen industry all the best, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much.